Hello, I'm Geraldine and these are my novel opinions. I'm going to be doing the mid-year freakout tag today, a roundup of the books that I've read in the first half of the year. A little bit belatedly, I'm afraid, because life is still happening here. We're just going through one of those phases where one thing goes wrong after another and you get one thing fixed and it throws up more problems. So we have got hot water, hurrah. We haven't got a shower. We've only got one working loo. Should be grateful that I had a backup, so that's all right. And the bedroom curtain pole is currently being held up by the loft ladder. These things will get mended. They're just taking their time. But anyway, so I've been off seeing to all that and doing other bits and pieces. So as I say, this is a little bit late, but better late than never. I read 36 books in the first half of the year, so that gave me a good selection to choose from. I did try not to repeat the same book more than once. Unfortunately, I've had to break that rule a couple of times, but let's see how we go. I'll just refer to my notes. The first question on the tag is, what's the best book you've read so far this year? Well, I think if you've watched any of my videos, or if you know me, or if you've sat next to me on a bus, you won't be at all surprised to hear that it's Gloria Don't Speak by Lucy Apps. This is the story of a young woman with learning difficulties who befriends a rather unhinged man, and it's the fallout from that. It absolutely broke my heart and put it back together again, and I had all of the emotions all in one. It was very well observed. Anyone who's had a close relationship with someone with learning difficulties will really recognise the way Gloria thinks, the way her mind works, and how it's different from the way our minds work sometimes. Yeah, all the praise for this book. I don't know why it didn't get onto the shortlist of the Women's Prize, and I'm really hoping to see it on the long list for the Booker, but it doesn't really feel like a Booker book to me, so I might be disappointed there, but fingers crossed. Right, the second question is, what's the best sequel you've read so far? I've only read a couple, Heart the Lover by Lily King, but I think I'm going to give the prize to On the Calculation of Volume Part 4. This is continuing the series about a woman who's reliving the same day over and over again. And in this part, there are a lot of interesting discussions about consumption and frugality and how we use up the world's resources. And there are also discussions about language and the way we name things can affect the way we think about them. Anyway, I think the fifth part is coming out later this year. It must be, mustn't it? So I'm really looking forward to that. Right, on to question number 3, which is, what's a new release you haven't read yet but want to? I think, loads and loads, but I think I'm going to go with Lost Lambs by Madeline Cash. And once again, I have a silly reason for wanting to read this. The front cover of the UK edition has got a little plastic lamb on the front, and it caught my eye as soon as I saw it in the bookshop, because I had a very similar plastic lamb when I was very small. It was just sculling around in the toy cupboard, and I remember picking it up and asking my dad what it was, because it's not cuddly, it's a hard plastic lamb, and it was hollow. It had a big hole in the base and a small hole in the back, which had a small burn mark by it. And my dad said, "Don't you remember this?" And I said, "No, don't have any recollection of this." And he said, "Well, when you were very young, it was your nightlight, and apparently it used to be a lamp. And when it stopped working, presumably something to do with the burn mark in the back, it just got dismantled and added to the toy cupboard." So that, again, is a very strange reason for wanting to read a book, but it's my reason and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so question 4 is, what's your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? I could say On the Calculation of Volume 5, but I will say Bad Company by Sara Paretsky. I don't read a huge amount of crime fiction, but I do like Sara Paretsky's novels, the V.I. Wachowski novels. I discovered them decades ago when there were only a handful of them, and I think we're up into the mid-late 20s of them now. And the protagonist, Vi herself, has aged not absolutely year for year, but pretty close. So it's quite interesting to see how she's dealing with things now. She's getting a bit creaky and old. But Bad Company isn't a Vi novel. It's something completely different. So I will be interested to see what Sara Paretsky does with that. I have read a couple of other things by her that weren't Vi novels, and I didn't like them as much, but she is a very good writer. Her writing is very spare and very sharp, which is exactly how I like it. I think that's out on I wrote it down, 24th of September in the UK. So I have pre-ordered that, and I'll be looking forward to reading it later on in the year. Question 5 is, what was your biggest disappointment? I think it's going to be Moderation by Elaine Castillo, not sure which. She is clearly a very skilled writer, and this is the story of a woman who works as a moderator on a social media platform. And it brings up a lot of very good issues about trauma and grief, and what else was there, corporate crime, all sorts of things, and they get brought up, but then the book turns into a romance novel, which isn't to my taste anyway, but I can't hold that against the book, but it just seemed a little bit odd, and a waste of an opportunity. So I felt that let me personally down, but as I say, she's still a very good writer, and I might like to see what else she's written, to see if I get on with those a little bit better than I did with Moderation. On to question 6 now. What was your biggest surprise? Well, it's As If by Isabel Waidner. This is the story of two men who meet and find that they have very similar lives in some ways and very different in others, and they decide to, at least they don't decide to, they gradually find that they're swapping lives. And it's quite a surreal novel, but I absolutely loved it. But once again, it's a book I bought because of the cover. The picture on the front of the UK edition is taken inside the Regency Cafe near where I used to work and where I have been many, many times. Again, very silly reason for buying a book, but it worked out in this case. And I think I need some more unusual ways of choosing books, because at the moment I go for books that people rave about. And the problem with that is, the more a book is raved about, the less it can actually live up to that expectation. And I think that's why I've been slightly disappointed with a lot of the books that I've been reading lately. It's not that I haven't enjoyed them, I just haven't enjoyed them as much as I thought I would. So I think I'm probably going to start picking my own books a little bit more often, rather than going on the recommendations of others. I mean, it's often helped me hearing what other people think of books, but I think I need to branch out and choose a few of my own from now on. Okay, so on to question 7, which is what's your favourite new author, either a debut author or just new to you? Well, I think it's going to be both in this case, and where I first break my rule about not mentioning the same book twice, because I think it's got to be Lucy Apps. I don't think she's written anything else, so I will certainly be keeping an eye out for her. Of course, I had personal reasons for liking Gloria Don't Speak, but I was very impressed with the way Lucy Apps did portray the girl with or the woman with learning difficulties, and I hope she can carry that over to anything else she writes in the future. So yes, I'll be looking out to see if she publishes anything else, and I will be snapping it up. Like last year, I'm going to combine the 8th and 9th questions, because the 8th question is, who is your newest fictional crush? I'm afraid I don't read books like that. I don't get crushes on the people I read about. So the 9th question is your newest favourite character. So for both of those, I'm going to choose Ulysses from Still Life by Sarah Winman. He just came across as a very sweet, genuine, open and honest man, almost naive, but not in a bad way. He just seemed very, very genuine. And in some ways that might make him a slightly less interesting character. But to be honest, sometimes you can have too much of complex characters, and sometimes it's just nice to spend time with someone who's pleasant. The 10th question is, what was a book that made you cry? Well, The Things We Never Say by Elizabeth Strout. There weren't any big boohoo moments, but she picked away at your heart piece by piece slowly throughout the book. So there were lots of moments where you just thought, oh, that's terrible. And so I didn't actually cry. I very rarely cry at books, but there are lots of books that move me emotionally. This was one of them, but as I say, it wasn't a big sad ending or anything like that. It was just lots of little things picking away at you bit by bit. It's what she does best. Well, it's not what she does best, but it's what she does very well. One of the things she does very well, and one of the reasons why I love Elizabeth Strout so much. Okay, so last 3 questions now. Question 11 is, what was a book that made you happy? This is again where I'm going to break my rule, and I'm going to mention Still Life again. I had quite a lot of reservations about this book. It was a very odd reading experience, because the first chapter was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then after that, the writing style became quite simplistic. And it had a kind of a cosy potboiler type feel. But once I'd accepted that and decided to go along with it, it did just become a very good, feel-good read. And I ended up absolutely loving it. There were a couple of other minor issues I had with it, but generally I thought that was it was a very pleasing book that left you with a warm fuzzy feeling at the end of it. Okay, penultimate question, number 12, is most beautiful book cover. I mostly read ebooks, and as I've mentioned, I can be swayed by the covers, but they don't have as much of an impact on me as they would if I read physical books. However, having said that, I think the most beautiful cover I've read so far this year is Legenda by Janina Ramirez. Love that midnight blue and gold. Flashy, flashy, sparkle, sparkle. It's just a shame that I didn't get on with the book itself, but it looks very pretty on my bookshelf. Although it will be going to a little free library or something like that in the near future. And the final question, question 13, what books are you prioritising to read before the end of the year? Well, the book along list is about to be announced, so I will probably be reading a few of those. I'm not intending to try and read the whole long list. However, I say that every year, and I usually get through most of it, so we'll see. It depends what's on there. I mean, everyone is saying that John of John is going to be on it and is probably going to win it. I've never read any Douglas Stuart. I've always had the feeling that, yes, he's probably a great writer, but I don't think he's for me. But this might be my opportunity to find out. So I might read that. I've got a couple of other books that other booktubers have mentioned on hold with the library, and I think there are some that appeared on the Amazon 99p Kindle bargains, so I snapped those up while I could. So I might be reading a few, but we will see how many. Anyway, that's my mid-year review. In a week or so I will be doing my July roundup, so please look out for that. I want to say hello to my new subscribers. I had a little flurry of new subscribers this month, so that was very pleasing. And if you're not subscribed, please do. You're supposed to say that. I hate saying it, it makes me feel dirty, but there we go, apparently it works. So anyway, I hope you are all doing very well, and I hope to see you in a couple of weeks' time. Bye.